I want to bring in Iran Program Senior Director and Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Behnam Ben Taleblu, and also retired Army Colonel Seth Crumrick. Thank you both for your time today. And Behnam, I want to start with you here. You've got a lot of fatwas issued against the U.S. by Iran. It's essentially a religious ruling against the U.S. And in many ways, they're specifically aimed at inspiring lone acts of terrorism. Yeah?
Precisely. Great to be with you, Alex. We know, of course, about the threats against U.S. President Donald Trump's life. The Islamic Republic has made no bones about that. Neither have its political and military elites, some of which who are no longer here. But its clerical establishment, as you mentioned, has been weighing in with respect to these fatwas. And the goal here is, if this is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism, rather than have them work through their proxies, as you've seen in the region, they're looking to inspire downtrodden and disenfranchised Americans to carry out attacks for them. And there could be no better proof of this than the regime saying it themselves. That's why the fatwa could be, broad and incumbent and a moral ruling on anybody who, quote unquote, adheres to their school of thought. And just on the first anniversary, by the way, of the killing of Iran's chief terrorist Qasem Soleimani by President Trump, the replacement for that terrorist had said that wouldn't it be great if Americans carried out this revenge for us? So this has always been a school of thinking in the backdrop of Iran's security elite.
Well, and Colonel, we've heard the Secretary of War talk about the success of this operation. We've heard the President talk about the success of this operation thus far. But if you're the U.S., how do you defend against that in a region that has so many soft American targets?
Well, you have to rely on your allies. It's critical being able to leverage the Emirates' exquisite surveillance that they have in their country, to have those relationships with those key partners and their law enforcement mechanisms that do a wonderful job of understanding exactly what's happening in those countries. We have to have that partnership. And I think the Secretary hit a really key piece. Anyone that was sitting on the fence before is now being pushed into the U.S. and Israel camp. And that's going to open up access to all of their exquisite intelligence capabilities and law enforcement capabilities to do exactly what you had just mentioned. That's how we're going to stop or get ahead of these threats.
Yeah. Well, and Behnam, this isn't the first fatwa against the West or the U.S., but I'm curious, does this one have a different feel to it?
Well, it's certainly, when you look at the regime's foreign and security policy, a government that really is flailing in the wind here. So they're throwing everything that they can out there. They're trying to inspire lone wolf terror attacks. Who knows what they may be trying to do in a more organized fashion with transnational criminal syndicates. Just so you know, in the past decade or decade and a half in America, the regime has tried to work by, with, and through everything from Mexican drug cartels to European mafias to even Canadian biker gangs to go after dissidents and American citizens and critics abroad. So there's always that option. And then, just like we see with the missile war in the region, whether rhetorically, politically, or militarily, this regime is shooting in every direction. I'm not surprised that the clerical establishment is also shooting in every direction.
Well, and Colonel, lastly here, what is most critical for this operation by the U.S. at this particular moment?
There's two things. The first is shaping the environment in Iran so that the protesters stand a chance to overthrow the regime. That's number one, because the protesters are going to drive if this is successful or not. If they can overthrow the regime, then the U.S. and Israeli actions will absolutely be justified. If they cannot overthrow the regime, then Iran wins. And then the second part to it is protecting U.S. and Western and other travelers and business interests in the region, which we've been doing since Saturday at Global Guardian, evacuating thousands of folks out of the region, because part of it is reducing what can be attacked in the region, and it's a full-time job.
Yeah, I believe it. We've been hearing those stories of Americans trying to get out of the region. Behnam Ben Taleblu and Colonel Seth Crumrick, thank you so much for your time.